Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things I've learned along the way and discussions about things that I think are important. And today is one of those. So I want to get right into this. Before I do, I want to say something. I want to put a little trigger warning out there. If you are easily offended by, I don't know, horrible words or bad words, things like that, and I don't mean profanity, but I mean words that put down other people, this is probably not the video for you because we're going to be discussing that today. The whole idea of this video is going to be about, do words hurt? Do words have power? Those kinds of things. And I think it's a discussion that a lot of people start, but we never really have, like, you know, over and over again. And I think it's an important discussion to have, especially in 2018, because I'm going to reference something that happened, 22 years ago, and yet we're still kind of dealing with the same issues. And for me, that's bothersome. The fact that we haven't learned from history and we're still kind of to some degree where we were 22 years ago. So what happened was I was sitting in my house tonight, just walking around, or I was sitting and then I was walking around, and I was looking through old drawers that I hadn't looked through in a long time, and I found one of my mom's journals. Now, if you've watched my videos for a long time, you know that when my mom passed away 10 years ago, I found all of her journals that she had started when she was 18, and they went up to about 6 months before she passed away. And everything in her journals are so random. And I think this one is a dream journal because she has written in here dream and then a date. And then it'll talk about like meeting Madonna was one of her dreams. But in here she has on here, actually on the first page, she has written save forever. I don't know if you guys can see that, but she has save forever written there. And then she has this pocket. And in the pocket next to stickers that say, improve your image, be seen with me. She had this newspaper article. Now, one of my favorite memories of my mom is when I was growing up, I would come down and she would always be sitting in the kitchen in the mornings, having a cup of coffee and reading the newspaper, the local newspaper. And she would always start with the obituaries because she said she wanted to know like who had passed away and, all that kind of stuff. And she would always, years later, she would call me up and she'd be like, oh my God, did you hear that Judy Smith passed away? I'd be like, Mom, I didn't even know Judy Smith. And she'd be like, yes, you do. She was that neighbor that lived 2 streets over in the red house. And I'd be like, okay, Mom, But she would keep newspaper clippings of obituaries of people that, family and friends that had passed away. I don't know for what, except for maybe me to find years later and make a video about. But on top of that, she kept many, many newspaper clippings about current events that were important to her at that time. I have found numerous, newspaper clippings about like when Brokeback Mountain, the movie, came out, and all the articles written about that. I have found newspaper clippings, about the Matthew Shepard killing and all that kind of stuff. On and on and on. All these different things for her that were very, very important as far as LGBT rights. I've also found things about, like police brutality and civil rights acts and movements that have happened through the years. And, it's interesting because I can go back and I look at these articles that she clipped out and find what was important to her that was going on currently in the world at that time, if that makes sense. So it's very, very interesting to me. One of the articles that she had in here was this one. And I looked at it and I thought, well, this is interesting because A, it's not an obituary, and B, I didn't even know anything about this. So I read the article and I was like, I need to talk about this because this happened in 1996. She has it written at the bottom, sad violence, 1996. So this is 22 years ago this occurred. And yet, I feel like this situation is either worse today or the same. But I feel like it's a lot worse. And it's about the power of words. It's also about bullying in high schools. Now, I have a long history of being bullied growing up, and I've talked a lot about it. I don't know that I was talking about it at that age and knowing that it was bullying. I don't know that I was able to identify that till years later. But today we hear, rampant stories about bullying that's going on in schools. And a lot of schools supposedly have these support systems for anti-bullying. And I'm not a big believer in that, honestly. I just really don't see how it's working and how it's benefiting the students. I just don't. And I've actually, like in the past gone into a lot of schools and heard about their programs. I'm like, okay, yeah, like, and how is this working? Oh, well, it's a program that we implemented that they found, you know, okay. Oh, so because some program is supposedly successful, that means it works. How about you get to know your students? How about you sit your ass in the parking lot at the end of the day? How about you get in the hallways and see what students are really talking about? That's what I say to the school administrators. So anyway, I found this article, and it's sad, and I also thought it was pertinent. So I'm going to read it for you guys, because I want to explain. My nose is driving me crazy today. I got a cold, and I've been blowing my nose every 5 minutes. So I wanted to read this article to you because I think it's important in kind of discussing the rest of this video. Poisonous words heard in school leave their mark on today's youth. I'm going to edit out the names just because I think these people probably don't want to hear their names in a YouTube video 22 years later. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Okay. Try skinny faggot, white trash, wigger. Those were apparently some of the verbal darts flying through the halls of North Central High School in the last few weeks, poisoning the atmosphere between at least 2 boys and ultimately spilling over into a brutal beating. The facts of the attack have already been reported. On April 18th, a 14-year-old freshman who weighs 125 pounds and is 5 feet 6 inches tall was badly beaten in the school's parking lot at 3:20 p.m. His jaw was broken, he was kicked, his teeth were smashed. Witnesses say he didn't fight back, nor did anyone intervene, until perhaps at the end when he was able to stagger back into the school. One boy with blood still on his fist was arrested that afternoon. 3 other arrests have followed. It's this paper's policy not to report the names of juvenile suspects except, generally, when a violent crime has occurred. It did. 1 boy was 16 and 2 were 15. 3 were freshmen and 1 was a sophomore. These are the facts, lifted off of a police blotter. What remains a mystery to North Central's 3,200 students and the community is why. Why would 4 boys with no history of trouble attack a student who also had a clean record? Principal C.E. Quant said the boys had different lifestyles and were intolerant of each other. It was a case of preppies versus a skater, said the school principal. This past Wednesday, Northern Lights, the school's student newspaper, ran the story of the fight along with photos of the kids. The pictures aptly reflect the school's celebrated diversity. 1 boy is white. His yearbook picture shows the eager ear-to-ear grin of the young freshman. 2 of the assailants were white. 1 was of Asian ancestry, and the one not pictured is black. The attack, in other words, was not obviously racially motivated. Furthermore, the attackers were all boys teachers like to have in class, says Crisis Administrator Ken McGee. None was a gang member, according to Marion County Sheriff's Department. Why, then, did they beat him? His family wishes not to talk about it. They have hired an attorney and an investigator. The other kids also are silent. They too have lawyers. The silence is valid legally, but maybe it's the counterpoint to what led up to the beating. Because according to Dr. Eugene White, Washington Township's school superintendent, the attack was preceded by name-calling between the boys. Calling someone wigger or faggot on school grounds sets the stage for trouble. Degrading language is prohibited. The day of the incident, and even before it, many knew about the verbal warfare. Kids were anticipating a fight. Yet despite rumors of impending bloodshed, nobody spoke out. Not in advance of the beating, nor during it. And that's what is most disturbing. Words were apparently used to taunt, then stilled in the adolescent code of silence. But nobody thought to use words to ask an adult for help. Taunt. Taunt. Do you mean bullying? Do you mean verbal abuse? Those weren't really words we used in 1996 to depict this kind of violence that happened in school systems. Today we know better. Today we know that these kinds of words affect people on a regular basis. They have affected me and they have affected millions of people around the world. Whether the word is skinny faggot, whether the word is fat ass, whether the word is frizzy-haired freckles, whether the word is whatever, okay? Any kind of word making somebody feel different in a derogatory way is not right. What has happened to kindness in the world? Where were these people raised, and where are the school officials and administrators? I am not convinced they care a whole lot anymore. I will tell you why. Because what we hear in the news more rampantly is more and more stories of suicides related to school bullying and things like that. Words hurt, okay? I will tell you how words hurt. If this hadn't happened, we would go back up here and it says his jaw was broken. He was kicked. His teeth were smashed. Now, just for 1 second, imagine yourself, if you don't have a child, or if you do have a child, imagine your child and getting a call from the school telling you that your child's jaw was broken, that he was kicked, and that his teeth were smashed in, all based on taunting. I think we would probably take that as a little bit more than taunting, don't we? Teasing, taunting. You don't have a thick skin. You need a thick skin. I heard all of that shit growing up, okay? Anytime I had an issue, which is why I stayed silent towards the end and never said anything, because any teacher that I ever took it to, any adult that I ever took it to, any school counselor I ever took it to, anybody at the school that I took it to would say to me, you need to toughen up, okay? You need to get over it. You need to move through this. You'll be better. Trust me, you know? These kids aren't the ones that are successful in the long run. Well, I'm here to tell you something, okay? A couple of those kids that I went to high school with that bullied the shit out of me are pretty successful today. One of them is the CEO of a major corporation. So I don't buy that shit, okay? I believe the change needs to occur in this school. I believe that bullies and the bullied need to come together and face one another and deal with this through love, understanding, and compassion and forgiveness. And that is not something that happens overnight, okay? That's not something that happens in 3 days of detention, a slap on the hand, and we have some bullying procedure in place where you have to take some anger management class. It just don't work like that, okay? And I'm so tired of this whole idea of bullying. If anybody cries bullying anymore, then they need to just get over it. And then 3 weeks later, we've heard some kind of suicide story. It breaks my heart. It's serious. Why are we not taking this shit seriously? I don't know how I came out on it alive. I came out on top and was alive. I really don't. I really don't. I dealt with brutal verbal bullying on a daily basis on top of violence, on top of threats. And I'm just one story. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of stories of this kind of a verbal and physical abuse that go on in our schools and in the parking lots of our schools on a daily basis. And yet we turn a blind eye to it, right? It makes me so sad. I want to show you guys a demonstration, okay, that I used to do back in the day. And simple piece of paper, right? This represents a person right here. Just a blank canvas, okay? But when we start cutting into that person with the words that we call them, faggot, bitch, whore, fat ass, freak, slut. When we take all of these words together and we cut somebody up, this is what we have left. Now, for anybody out there that isn't convinced that words hurt and that words affect you, turn this into a real piece of paper, a complete person all over again. Show me how we can make a complete person that has been cut apart so many different times. Now, we can take these pieces together, we can glue them together, we can form them into something different, we can make them into something different, but they're never gonna be what they were before. Words hurt. Words have power. Words don't only have negative power, words have positive power. I love you. Be my friend. Would you like to sit next to me at lunch? Hey, welcome to your first day of work. I like your hair color. Your sweater is pretty. All of those words have power too, but they don't cut somebody apart. What we use our words for is very, very important. Saying things like words don't matter, words don't have power is total bullshit. Complete bullshit. If I could have my mom be alive for 5 more minutes, one more time, to say to me, I love you, I would trade that in for so many days. So don't tell me that words don't mean anything, because I just don't buy that. I think it's total bullshit. I think we need to think about the way that we use our words, the way that we choose to use our language, and the way that we choose to impact people. Do we choose to do that in a positive way, or do we choose to cut them down? I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.